All right. Hope you guys are having a good weekend. I wanted to make the second part to this video as promised. So what I was talking about last week was viewing the OTC as a working hypothesis, aka you don't know whether you're going to be right or wrong about your interpretation of something. It could be a catalyst, could be um, some type of conjecture you're making regarding price action. So you could think, all right, there's a mega load, so this, and this must be happening. So anyways, point being, you have a thought in mind, and you're either, every second of every day and every transaction and everything that you're every piece of information that you're looking at basically is going to either serve to make you more confident or less sure of that. And sometimes you can sort of discard data as irrelevant, right? So this is something I sort of forgot to mention last week, is you're going to have randomness. You're going to have people that are selling that are silly retail, or they don't know what they're doing, and that shouldn't necessarily affect your opinion at all about what's happening. So anyways, what I wanted to do today and in this video is give you guys some more concrete examples of what I'm talking about. Thus the screenshotting. So anyways, so as we talked about it more and more last week in the chat, I started to sort of realize that a lot of this is always going to be sort of like, I want to say, so we got OTC trading, right? I want to say it's going to be composed a lot of these hypotheses, OTC hypothesis trading. I mean, a lot of the time what we're going to be looking at is dichotomies, or you could say dualities, or you could say diametrically opposed forces. In other words, you have two equal and opposite possibilities, right? So I was just sort of brainstorming here about what some of these might be, and I'm sure you guys will think of some on your own. But so this is what we talk about a lot in the chat, and I mean, this is like, as a guy who trades pretty dilutive triple zeros for a good portion of my income all year, this is one of the more common questions that I'm always asking myself is, is it wash trading versus true or real loading? AKA, do they want them or do they want you to want them? So, anyways, I have two good examples of this to show you guys. So I have FTWS and PGFT. So I'll go back later on. I'll show you what I mean by that as good examples. Unfortunately, I don't have, what I really want to show you is what I was seeing on level 2, but unfortunately I don't have footage from those days. Even if I did, it probably wouldn't be the best thing, because if I show you the tactics that they use, then they'll just switch them and probably start doing it a little differently. So that's why learning is so key. Is even if I could teach you guys, it wouldn't really help. So, anyways, so there's one, right? Another one that we see a lot is RS, reverse split, as damaging shareholder value versus a justified valuation, right? Or if you're a little more cynical, like I am, a post-split pump. So you're going to have people, when you talk about this, you're going to have people talking about the ratios, you're going to have people talking about the companies involved, that type of stuff. So some people are going to say, oh, they're reverse splitting, they're destroying all shareholder value. You know, it's all going down the drain. You know, your whole investment's gone. Other people are going to say, yeah, well, they just need to split so that they can build the company, you know, or whatever. To me, a lot of times that's going to be a line of bullshit. But you know, or you could say, hey, they just need to split so they can pump that better, you know. And that to me is like, if somebody tells me that, I'll almost be more likely to give them some credibility than if they tell me the valuation shit. But you know, regardless, all right, say you're a value investor. I'm not out here saying nobody makes money value investing in OTC. So you know, maybe that's the case. And you know, we just saw RDGLD. Look at the run that thing put in post split. You know, and I had a buddy who was bagging that, like a ridiculous sized position too, you know, and he was bagging it for a while, and not the way I would have traded it, but he ended up getting out with like 80 grand in profit, and this is a guy who held through the split, right? So, you know, who's really smart there? You know, he looks like a pretty smart guy after that. So, anyway, so some good examples of this. I mean, okay, let's say. T-cell would be a good example. Now you guys are going to remember that the split was canceled here, so I don't want anybody reading into this too much. I'm not trying to say anything about the company. I'm just saying there was an initial knee-jerk reaction to when there was a split in a merger document, versus KRFG or DAVC, which are pretty similar. In terms of due diligence, just on face value. You know, these are both companies that I think announced some type of merger. KRFG, it might have just been like all signs pointing to merger. I don't think they made an official announcement, but right. But there was a split included with the merger, you know, and both of those turned out to be epic runners after the fact, after this was all known, you know. So there's going to be people who sold into that split announcement, you know, and I know KRFG, like that day it ran to, you know, 15 or 20 when all those filings came out, and there was a reverse split in the filing, but you know, there's probably some guys who were up 100%. They took that profit, and you know, they figured it's not like they dumped right away on the split, but maybe they sold on a relatively smaller gain because they figured, you know, people are gonna find out about this, they're going to twist the narrative, it's going to dump back down, and it never did, not until a lot later, right? So you know, these are the hypotheses that we form, and some of us are right and some of us are wrong, and we got to do our best to be right as much as possible. So anyway, so those are some good examples of the RS, and we've seen this a lot more recently with a lot of mergers, you know, and I don't know if it has to do with funding rules or what, but you know, most mergers seem to have a split eventually. So you're going to be dealing with this issue a lot. Another one we have, AS raise versus useful, you know, I want to say valuation driving dilution. So AS raise to dump, reverse split, to destroy shareholder value, right? Wash trading to deceive, you know, all this shit, right? So, anyways, I'm going to take this out because it makes it look a lot messier, but you know, you get what my point is. Fucking A. So, here's another one. What were you thinking of? Well, I remember Cali, and then I don't know. There are so many good ones that I've traded on an AS raise. I love AS raise dumps because, like, most of the time people are just freaking out about nothing. It's like they're always going to have to raise the AS, at least on the ones that I play, because they get diluted a lot. So, you know, if it ends up being a great share structure, post AS raise. You're looking at a really nice float at 0005 or something like that, and it just dropped from 15 on the AS raise or 20 or 30, then, while everybody else is saying, oh, that one, give it the RIP, it's never in play ever again, I'm saying, all right, well, maybe there's an overreaction here. So, I don't know. I'm trying to remember a good AS raise, like, dump example. I mean, some of you guys are going to hate me for this one, but GXXM, like every time they raise the AS, it seemed to dump. But I'd have to look at the timeline. There might have been one or two times where it actually got pumped pretty well afterwards, and anybody who sold off on that filing was wrong, right? So, anyway, my point is, let's say for that example, maybe there's clues in the price action, in how it's trading, in how even if you're crazy like this, maybe even how people are talking about it, right? So everything you're looking at, every piece of information, it's like Gordon Gekko says, most valuable commodity I know of is information, right? So every piece of information you're looking at is either serving to show you this side is going to be the one that eventually wins out, or this side is going to be the one, and all up and down the line, So the point is to absorb as much information as possible and utilize it, and sometimes you're going to be wrong, sometimes you're going to be right, but at least you're not making uneducated guesses, I'll just throw out a few more examples, I don't have to go through all of these, but just because we talk about them in the chat a lot. Prop bid to load or to push higher versus prop bid to dump, and I'll see people say, oh, it's a prop bid, some people are gonna, the really new people are gonna be like, oh, it's a big bid, it must be headed up, and then people are get a little more wise to it. They're gonna say, oh, it's a prop bid, it must be going down, because why would they be propping it if they're not trying to sell? But to me, it's like those people are sort of only medium level knowledge, because how many times have the guys who've been doing this for a long time seen somebody prop something and push it higher and higher and higher? If you wanted to hit that guy's bid the first time, you would have robbed yourself of like another 3 or 4 bags, So, versus the prop bid to dump, So there's another duality, right, of two different things with different sets of motives and completely opposite outcomes, that are going to look the same to the untrained eye, One more to throw in that we talk about a lot, just because we talk about it way too much not to mention it. And this is what we were talking about with that one ticker. I don't think it's going to matter if I mention it, but it was the one I got in on Friday. How do I not remember this? It was it's funny because I love this ticker too. Hold on, I'm gonna check. Okay. Well, anyways, I'm sure I'll remember it in a minute. But oh yeah, SNPW is what it was. So that one we had the guy doing the wall, right? And you can say, to me, the wall thing is sketchy because like a lot of times I've seen them use it. They'll put up a wall and it makes me want to load, and then it goes even lower. Like I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, I watched RushNet a few weeks back. And it was like right at a critical support level. Like it was right where I think it was like 8, and the last few times I think, maybe even a couple times, 8 was like epic support. So, I thought they were loading because they had this big, obvious retail wall on 9 or something like that. Um, and it turns out that it was just probably a guy with a huge position that knew it was headed lower, and like he was selling into the bid the whole time with that wall up. Because he had so many shares, he could have the wall and sell the shares, and then guys like me are sitting there like, oh, well, this looks like somebody's trying to load, so we're buying all the shares from him, and then eventually he sells that wall too. So you have the wall to load versus the wall to make the market want to load. And to me, this is that type of game theory stuff. Like, he thinks that I think that he thinks that I think, and they're almost fishing for, like, more skilled players. Like, sometimes you can know too much, And that actually kind of goes back to this, too. It all ties together all the time, right? So, but that kind of goes to this, where, like, sometimes you can know too much. You can be too smart for your own good. And you know what? I have people commenting on my tweets every day that are too smart for their own good, right? Because these are people who are, I'm not trying to be a dick. They're probably closer to broke than I am, and they're trying to tell me how to trade, which is cool. Like, I'm always open to learning and shit like that. But, and they're trying to tell me how all these companies I'm trading are, like, fundamentally not sound, which is, like, absolutely true. That's absolutely true. But, like, dude, you guys can have all the financial knowledge you want, and, like, and don't get me wrong, I'm very well educated about my investments, but I just pay attention to what I think matters, and that's a good example. It's like who's really smarter, and the bottom line is we want to make money for ourselves and our families, So I don't know. To me, the smartest trader is the guy who's making the most money, Some other guy, like if some guy gets 5% a year on $100 million, he's smarter than I am, even if I'm getting my 350% a year or whatever. But anyway, I digress. So anyways, almost done with this video. I wanted to be able to show you guys what I was talking about, especially for the newer guys. So I'll just show you how there's different reactions to, like, pretty much the same fundamentals. And there's going to be people that say, oh, Bala, you just don't look close enough. Like, you're saying these are similar situations, but these are the differences. And, like, maybe they're right. But to me, like, I kind of reject that notion, because I think that even in the broader markets is the same thing, where, like, it's not really about how it is. It's about how they can spin it based on what position they're already in. So if they're stuck with a huge amount of shares or whatever, and, like, this news hits, like, they don't give a fuck what it says, man. They're going to spin it the way they want to spin it. So that's why you always look at moment by moment, how does it look like it's being spun, And I don't even mean, like, a lot of times you're not going to see the PR blitz, first. You're going to see the loading first. So all part of the working hypothesis. Anyway, so this one, the first one, I'll just do them in order. This one, I wanted to give you guys an example. It kind of sucks because I won't be able to actually show you what happened on level 2, but I'm going to describe it best I can, and then those of you guys who are around, for these plays will know exactly what I'm talking about, and hopefully it'll at least help them, help you guys, and then, I don't know, like, hopefully you guys can help other people. So pay it forward, But so anyway, we have FTWS BGFT, pretty much identical level 2 action. Not let's just for the sake of discussion. So we had, what was happening was we had huge bids showing up and then huge dumps, like epic dumping, aggressive as fuck. But the bidding was super aggressive too, right? So Bigfoot, this is the time. I'm not talking about it recently. I'm talking about when we all got in and it pumped to like 6 or 7, and I remember we all loaded. This was like earlier this year, and everybody was making 100% on that, and so it made a nice little move. So, this was a time where you had the huge dumps and the huge loads, right? FTWS, some of you guys might remember I alerted that maybe a month ago at 3, not one of my best alerts. So, and after I alerted it, what we saw happening was you'd see like big 50 million share bids showing up and getting dumped. and and then having it happen again. So again, aggressive dumping, aggressive loading, and where did it eventually go? 0002. So now I'm not convinced that those dudes aren't still in. So we might have to put this one on the back burner because it might ultimately be shown that was legit loading, and those guys are just bagged right now, and they know something huge is coming or whatever. So, but let's just say, for the sake of discussion, FTWS stays where it is, or it goes no bid, or whatever. Like, they just dilute it into the ground, or even if it's just like the amount of liquidity at 0002 shows to be enough to where, like, all right, that wasn't a front load at 3, So, those are two different examples of pretty similar price action. One was, or could have been, wash trading, whereas Bigfoot showed to be true loading. It ran, so it must have been true loading. So, anyways, no visuals for that one. But there's an example. I could give countless others. Yeah, I'm sure I'll have other ones to show you guys, every single day, or at least every single week. So, reverse split, just the reverse split, as a destructive to shareholder value versus driving a justified valuation post split or whatever. So, bear with me. I really don't like this site very much, but this is how I'm able to show you guys some charts pretty easily. So we got one example. You had the merger. Merger is going to be a big deal. At least that's word on the street, right? So you had the merger announcement. Thing pumped big time. Actually, there wasn't an announcement. So this was, I forget the exact timeline. There was a little bit of OTC type stuff going on in this, but anyway, so we pumped to 8 from 2. Pump's the wrong word. We ran to 8 from 2. And then I remember the SOS docs hit that night, or like this night or something like that. And there was a reverse split in the documents. Thing tanked. Okay. Now, this part was, again, a little more inside info, but also just they canceled the split, so that's why we're retesting these highs. But forget about this part. Point being, you had a split announced despite a merger that was supposedly a big deal. Thing tanked. That's one reaction to a split. Like I say, nothing about T-cell. You just can't argue. That's what fucking happened, So, so that's a good example of a bad knee-jerk reaction to a reverse split. All right. We have something like, I guess I can show you guys. I think you can figure it out. I'm gonna say I can show you a screenshot, but anyways, DAVC. I remember they had a. This must have been. I think this is that first big pump with this one. My guess is that's probably when that PR came out on Samsara luggage. Look at all these PRs. You think somebody knew those were coming? Alright, so I think this was the press release. Maybe not. My apologies. Should have been more well prepared for this. I thought I'd be able to find it easily, but so they had a merger. They had a merger agreement in one of these press releases. And it basically said, we're going to do this big merger. There's also going to be a reverse split. And this was back in I wish I could show you guys the exact example. Maybe somebody can help me with this. You get what you pay for in life, you know. Sorry I suck at this, but it is free. So anyway, I remember the press release hit. Oh, this was when it hit. It hit back in April. I don't know why that press release isn't on the website, but and I remember it said, you know, this is a merge, you know, and there was like a reverse split down at the bottom mentioned, right? So, and this thing just ignored it, man. And it ran all the way to as high as I think 65, you know. And I sort of remember the situation. Like, it's exactly what I was talking about. There's some promoters, I could tell they were already in it. They might not have known that part was coming. They don't give a fuck. They ran it anyway. The split there was no time frame on it anyway. So, and that's some of the stuff you can look at too. Is, you know, are they talking about? Is there a specific date? Is it a pre-14C, def 14C? Is it just on SOS? Is it just in a press release? You know, and these are the type of things that are going to affect your hypothesis, and you know the probability that it's going to be interpreted one way or another. You know, what's the ratio of the split? How good is the merger? And every merger is the best thing since sliced bread. You know, but maybe that's, you know, there is an ultimate non-relative truth out there. So better you are at getting to it, the better you'll be able to form these hypotheses. Maybe so. AS raise, right? So we had GXXM, I think GXXM had an AS raise. Well, they had several announced, but you know, I think this is when one of them hit. So you saw a tank, you know, down to like you know, mid 001s. You know, so that's a bad reaction. You had a low of the day prior to, and you know, let me just confirm. I don't want to be giving you guys the wrong information, so I like to trust my memory, but. And again, remember that OTC, short memory, everything's just my opinion. You know how opinions are, and none of this shit has any bearing on what I actually think about these companies. I'm just trying to explain like initial reactions to stuff. So I'm not saying anything about GXXM. I know a lot of you guys might still be big fans of that one, but so let me see. I'm gonna guess there was probably some type of a filing back in here in May. So we got April 16th. All right. So see, like we got a low a day of 0016. On that day, we started this new move down to 7. Right. Perfect example of what I'm talking about. Man, this makes me excited. So look, interpreted badly, overreaction, bounce, back to the same levels, right? But the initial interpretation was bad, and now right in here is where you're starting to get into new hypothesis land. You know, where now you're saying, all right, I'm getting another feeling. I think there's an overreaction to this, and I don't remember what the float was, but I'll bet it was sick for a 0007 stock with that type of interest. You know. Anyways, for those of you guys who don't know, these are reverse split filings or AS raise filings. The pre-14C is the first step. The def is the next step. So you have this pre, this def, this pre, this def, and this is part of the picture too. Look how long before the pre was. So this was sort of known for a couple months, and then it hits, and everybody freaks out. You know, and then maybe this is where you start coming up with another hypothesis. Like, dude, they already knew about this. You know, doesn't even make any sense. So, anyways, so good example of two different reactions. Oh, and then versus Cali, which I remember, I think they just raised the AS on SOS, which like I don't have OTCRE logged in on this computer. This is just one I'm borrowing, so you guys will have to forgive me if I don't do that. But I remember that yeah, And yeah, so look, this was when the AS raise hit, right? So it dropped a little bit, like maybe a tick. Um, and then it just pumped. And ever since they've been, like, you can say they're doing a lot with their business, or you can say they're spending a lot of money on promo, but like the bottom line is this AS raise freed up a lot of space to like make some epic shit happen, you know. So this is a good example, and I don't know if they've raised it since, you know. So this is a good example of one where like the AS raise clearly was for the point of pumping or building, you know, shareholder value or whatever you want to call it, you know. So it was a positive for the shareholders, and they wouldn't have been able to do that without the raise. So, um, anyways, few examples. As always, I apologize for rambling. You know, I got a lot of crazy shit going on in my brain, and sometimes it's hard to try to try to put it into words or put it on paper. So, but it's like an itch I got to scratch. So I appreciate you guys um, letting me ramble on here, and I hope that it's helpful, you know, and let me know if it's not. You know, I'm always open to constructive criticism, and I'm always open to trying to make what I do better. And you know, I think this is a worthwhile thing to spend my time on. So, anyways, I guess that's enough of me. You guys have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll see you all Monday. Let's make some money.